Once you've selected one, pause and listen. This interruption isn't ordinary. Heaven itself leans in because the days ahead carry weighty consequences. This week will not simply pass you by. It bears the burden of destiny. If you ignore the gentle voice that's calling you, you won't just lose comfort. You risk direction, safety, and the peace you thought steady. God's voice rarely screams. It nudges, it whispers, it waits, a small, persistent tug in the quiet. You already know that pull. The soft stirring at the edge of your attention, the whisper in the hush, the awkward unease when everything around you seems fine but something inside insists otherwise. That inner tug isn't inconvenience, it's invitation. Imagine this week like a tightrope stretched across a vast gorge. One careless glance, one distracted step, and the fall is swift. But keep your eyes fixed and your ears tuned to the guide's voice, and you will cross to the ground of promise. That is why this moment matters. Elon might chime in short, imagine thought, big decisions are tests of alignment between what's efficient and what's right. Efficiency without integrity is just a faster mistake. A story. A chosen one once faced a dazzling offer. Money, fame, rapid success, and human applause. On paper it looked perfect. Advisors nodded. The path was paved in golden promises. Yet late one silent night, discomfort rose in him, a quiet alarm he couldn't ignore. It wasn't fear of risk. It was the sense that accepting would cost something sacred. He paused. He listened. The voice he'd been taught to dismiss whispered a reminder. Not every open door is a door of destiny. Some doors are detours dressed as opportunities. He declined the flattering offer. At the time, others called him foolish. But avoiding that shortcut preserved what was inside him, his integrity, his calling, the life that would later matter more than applause. That's the essence of the hardest choice. It asks you to trade instant approval for long-term alignment. It asks you to refuse what looks good so you can receive what is good. Elon's brief interjection imagined there's a cost to both choices. Pick the one you're willing to live with for years, not the one that gives you a headline for a week. So now, choose carefully. Don't be swayed by noise, momentum, or crowds. Let the small, steady whisper guide you. If you must decide this week, make it a decision you can live with when the lights are off and the applause is faded. He declined it. The truth was revealed in a few weeks. It was a trap. That seemingly ideal chance was followed by fraud and controversy. He avoided disaster because he obeyed. His future may have ended that week, but his fate was saved by listening. You see, one was selected. The voice of God is not an extravagance. It's a matter of survival. When the road ahead is obscured by fog, it serves as the compass. When the storm waves slam onto your ship, it's the lighthouse. It is the soft hand that guides you away from hidden traps. In chapter 7, verse 23, the Spirit addressed the prophet Jeremiah. You will be my people if you obey my commands, and I will be your God. Enter in whatever manner that I direct. That everything works out. Can you hear it? It's not a hollow promise. He promises himself to you if you listen to his voice. However, the state is evident. Follow his instructions. To share the love of the angels, write Amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. Because of this, ignoring him might be fatal as it leaves one vulnerable to all of the enemy's traps. Distractions will masquerade as opportunities this week. Beauty will envelop temptations as they come. Fake voices will sound almost accurate, nearly pious, and nearly sage. You need to improve your hearing because of this. Obedience that is delayed is nevertheless disobedient. The attacker may take advantage of your waiting till it is opportune. Think of your soul like a string on a violin. A clear, strong sound that can cut through the deepest darkness is produced when it is tuned by the master's hand. However, he applies if you ignore the strain and reject his touch. There is dullness in place of melody when the string slackens. Your life will be filled with obedience this week. If this term makes you uncomfortable, Ozark silently. Make your answer visible. For heaven's record, not for mine. Post a sign in the comments section. Enter 77 to make your statement. I'll pay attention. I'll comply. Let it be a prophetic gesture, a declaration that this week I will prioritize the voice of God above all others. Finally, share this warning if you know someone who is heading into danger while wearing a blindfold. They could be pulled back from the brink by your hand. For a soul on the verge of disaster, a simple act of sharing may be the difference between disaster and salvation. Do not undervalue the stakes, chosen one. Someone has phoned you. You've been marked. For a moment like this, you are unique. Heaven's breath is not wasted. Furthermore, God never speaks in vain. His voice is your protection, and his voice is life. This week, make a decision before you proceed. Are you going to follow his whisper, or are you going to ignore it and fall in a trap set for you? Make a decision now, not later, to share the love of the angels, write Amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. And to stay in touch, subscribe if this message speaks to you. Not for statistics, but so that words that keep you in line with heaven continuously nourish your soul. The days ahead are serious. For you, heaven is stopped. Will you halt for heaven? Chosen one? That is still the question. You have often questioned why God's voice does not split the clouds and thunder like lightning, ensuring that there is no room for error. The secret, however, is here. To the true listener, his voice is like a whisper, gentle but distinct. But the storm is noisy. The storm yells urgently. The commotion of the storm attracts attention. You are fighting a struggle between the whisper of God and the roar of distraction, not between quiet and loudness. Shaken and exhausted, Elijah ran to the mountain. It was this very contradiction that he came upon. The ground trembled. The winds roared. Across the horizon, fire flared. But none of them contained God. Then there was a soft murmur. It was so little, so delicate, that only a heart that had been given up could see it. You deal with it in your own life. Though the whisper will always be more genuine, the storm will always be louder. You will notice it this week. There will be more noise. The chaos of due dates, other people's thoughts, the stress of incomplete work, and the voices that want an answer right now. These things require that you submit to them like breaking waves. The whisper, however, waits in the middle of everything, inviting rather than imposing or yelling. You have to calm the tempest inside of you in order to hear it. Selecting the storm has risks. You get reactive during a storm. You are motivated by appearances, hurry, and dread. Despite your rapid pace, you lack direction. It's similar to a sailor using the thunder of the waves instead of the stars to guide his ship. He is lost, yet he feels energetic. Despite being adrift, he feels occupied. Selecting the whisper is more difficult. Stillness is necessary. It requires faith. Stopping while everything is screaming hurry seems strange, but that's the goal. Your loyalty is put to the test by the whisper. Are you a part of the storm, or to whomever soothes it? Once, a chosen one got caught up in a whirlpool of viewpoints. Everyone in her immediate vicinity offered guidance. Follow this route. Say these words. Don't take too many chances. Every day, their shouts became louder, and she felt a tug on her heart from all sides. She abstained from eating. She said a prayer. Then, in the stillness of the morning, a whisper arose within her. Remain still. To share the love of the angels, write Amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. Don't move just yet. It was really dim. It was nearly unbelievable. However, she did as she was told. When a reality was revealed a few days later, the same course she had been encouraged to follow was replete with covert treachery. The storm she had hurried into. Her heart would have been irreparably damaged. They are liars, but the storms will offer protection. Only God himself is promised in the whisper. Furthermore, chapter 3, ES 5 and 6 of the book of Proverbs reveals that this is sufficient. Have complete faith in the Lord and do not rely on your own wisdom. In every manner, give him credit. He will guide your ways. Leaning away from your own comprehension is what it feels like to trust the whisper. It's like taking a leap into the unknown. However, it is the only way to be guided into avenues that do not lead to devastation. Think about another image. A garden is like your heart. Thoughts, anxieties, uncertainties, and concerns are like seeds scattered by the wind, and soon weeds appear, stifling the intended growth. However, the whisper is similar to a gardener's meticulous hand sowing seeds. They need time. They take time. However, they produce life as they mature. This week, which garden will you let inside? One more picture. Picture yourself in the midst of the night, holding a delicate lantern. The wind roars around you. Branches break. The sky crackles with thunder. The storm is still going strong. However, your lantern's flame flickers regularly. You will panic if you think about the storm. However, you won't stumble if you maintain your focus on the flame. He owns the flame. Whisper. It provides you with a light to continue navigating the storm, but it makes no promises to calm it down. Recognize this fact, chosen one. The storm will always be stronger than the voice of God. It won't strive to make extra noise, to cover up anxiousness, or yell out dread. It will only stay still, waiting for your heart and your ear. Whether he talks is not the issue. You have to decide whether you want to listen. The whisper endures forever, but the storms pass. The storms change. The whisper bears the eternal knowledge of heaven, yet they come and go. You will remain unfazed while others are blown about by the winds if you learn to trust it now. When others give up in terror, you will walk in peace. To share the love of the angels, write Amen and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. You'll be a live example of how God still leads his people, not with thunder. However, the selected one's voice remained tiny. No one else could see the struggles you carried. You've laughed with pals while your soul cried in quiet, and you've smiled in rooms when your heart was exploding. Because you stand tall, others see you as powerful. Heaven is aware of the burden you bear. However, every cry, every sleepless night, every silent prayer, all of it has been acknowledged. The voice of God becomes most valuable at this point. His murmur reminds you that you are not alone when your secret troubles emerge like shadows. Your Jew could be missed. You could even be rejected by some. However, you are carried by his heart, his ears, and his eyes. A chosen one once experienced a sense of invisibility. Day after day, he went to work, returned home, and went through the same routine. He was struggling within, feeling alone, misunderstood, and worn out by conflicts no one wanted to discuss. When he was about to give up one night, he opened the scriptures, and one verse sprang out like fire. Heaven seemed to have moved into his little flat and taken up residence next to him. Even while the poem didn't instantly make his suffering go away, it gave him the willpower to get back up knowing that he was seen. That was the pivotal moment. As stated in the ancient holy books, God has already borne what others were unable to see. There, 34 of the book of Psalms. Those who are crushed in spirit are saved by the Lord, who is near to the brokenhearted. It's not poetry either. It's the truth. Heaven is close when you're devastated. The Lord himself stoops to hear even the smallest cries when you are broken. You're not invisible. Imagine your existence as a painting, regardless of how profound the quiet around you feels. Only your brilliant strokes, your shining moments, and your shared laughing may be seen to others around you. However, deeper tones, painful strokes, and sad seasons are concealed under the canvas shadows. However, the masterpiece would be shallow without those hues. Everything is seen by God. The shadows of your narrative are not rejected by him. He combines them to create something powerful and beautiful. Alternatively, see yourself as a mountain. Others perceive you as unchangeable, tall, and solid, yet they are blind to the storms that pound your summits and the fissures that pierce far under the surface. Mountains endure because of their well-established bases, not because they are impervious to storms. That's you, the one, beaten yet unflappable, because God himself is your basis. Let me now address your spirit directly. Someone has misinterpreted you. You have been forgotten. None of it, however, disqualifies you. It is really the indication that you have been selected, because God conceals his most formidable fighters in plain sight, molding them in the dark and honing them during quiet times. Heaven's hand has been holding you the whole time, so what breaks others hasn't broken you. I want you to do a little yet important action. Don't forget to leave a remark. Why? Because as you write those 2 words, they become a weapon against the falsehoods that start to sneak into your head. This is more than just a remark. You are saying, even if people overlook me, God never has. Even if my pain has been ignored by others, heaven remembers every detail. It is a statement of prophecy for your life. The fact that you are inscribed on his palms serves as a reminder to your own spirit. Your covert efforts are not in vain, chosen one. They are not disregarded, nor are they ashamed. They are the exact location where God is closest, the loudest whisper of his voice. Allow each tear you shed to serve as evidence that you have always had his presence. The internal conflict is not the end. The refining fire is what demonstrates that you are selected for more. As you enter the next chamber, remember that your deity is here, not that your suffering has ended. Keep in mind that you are a light that cannot be understood by others. You were born out of the darkness and have persevered. And pay close attention to this reality. Every secret battle is molding you into a darkly deadly person. The adversary wants you to be buried by your silence. However, God prepares you via your quiet, similar to a seed crushed under the dirt, hidden from view. We don't forget you. You're getting ready to make your breakthrough. There will come a day when the hidden will reveal itself. Additionally, the testimony you have formed in your own struggles can save lives you never thought possible. Your battle is not over. It's the prelude of the harvest. Selected one. Deep down, you've always known that you were unique. You couldn't explain certain things, even as a youngster. While other people appeared at ease fitting in, there were moments when you felt different, even misinterpreted. Something more, something bigger, was what your soul yearned for. This distinction hasn't been a liability. It has been a mark from God. You were not made to follow the herd. You were made to stand out. Not because of your own abilities, but because of the divine purpose that was inscribed on your existence. Many attempt to hide their individuality in order to avoid drawing unwelcome attention to themselves. They duplicate other people's voices, imitate the behaviors of others around them, and stifle their innermost thoughts. However, what God himself has engraved into your being cannot be removed by your chosen one. Your distinction is not an error. It is proof of fate. Think about Joseph's narrative. Because of his aspirations, his brothers hated him. Being the youngest among them, they were unable to comprehend why he had thoughts of grandeur. His difference was arrogance to them. His distinction was destiny to God. He wasn't supposed to feel at ease with what made him unique. He was supposed to be in place when the area was hit by hunger. Numerous lives might have been lost if he hadn't made a difference. Similarly, there have been times in your life when rejection was very painful. Heaven says, because you're not like everyone else. The conflict you experience with the outside world is not evidence of your flaws. You asked yourself, why do they treat me this way? Why can't I just fit in like everyone else? As the apostle reminds us in his epistle to the Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 17, it is evidence that you have been selected. Thus, the Lord commands you to leave them and be apart. If you don't touch anything dirty, I'll accept you. Although it hurts, my separation is precious. Being selected means being called out of the ordinary. It implies that you can't act in the same way as others without facing consequences. It implies that you can't lose yourself by following the herd, where people freely enter into compromise. Where others may chuckle at darkness, your soul hurts. The weight of conviction weighs on you. This is how heaven has marked you. Imagine a cave with a torch. The cavern is huge and dark, with shadows extending in all directions. Even a modest torch may make a big impact, because it reveals what lurks in the corners. The shadows detest it. You're that torch. You question why people oppose you more strongly than they do other people. It's because, like a compass needle, your mere existence makes visible what darkness would want to hide. The needle always goes back to true north regardless of how much you spin it or jiggle it. That is the one you have selected. Others could stray, riding the cultural winds. However, you are drawn back to alignment by your spirit. Something deep within of you won't let you rest in compromise, no matter how much you attempt to flee or hide your calling. This disparity may seem burdensome. Sometimes you may wish you could turn it off. Give up your calling for comfort and your mantle for ease. But keep in mind that every prophet and divine servant mentioned in the ancient books had the same burden. In his bones, Jeremiah screamed that the word of God was like fire. He was unable to control it. Even when he tried, the difference burns in you the same way. It is not optional. It is your identity, chosen one. The world does not need more copies. It does not need you to shrink into invisibility. It needs the light that only you carry, the vision that only you've been given. The very thing that made you the outcast in one season will make you the answer in the next. Your difference is the bridge between despair and deliverance, between emptiness and hope. So do not despise it. Do not run from it. Learn to wear your difference like armor, not shame. For when storms rage, when deception spreads, when others collapse in confusion, your distinct calling will anchor you. And in that moment, what once isolated, you will become the reason others are drawn to you, chosen one. You are marked not by chance, but by choice, God's choice. You are distinct because heaven needed someone unafraid to be different. Stand in it boldly, for your difference is not a wound. It is a weapon forged by the hand of God. Chosen one, there is a danger more subtle than open rebellion, and it hides itself in something that feels harmless. Delay. To delay obedience is to treat God's voice as optional, to assume there will always be more time. But what if the opportunity is fleeting? What if the window closes, never to open again? Delay may feel safer, but it is the quiet doorway through which destruction often enters. Think about a fire alarm ringing in the middle of the night. Some leap up immediately, gathering loved ones, stepping into safety. Others hesitate. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'll wait another minute. That single minute can make the difference between life preserved and life lost. In the same way, the Spirit's prompting is often urgent. To delay is to gamble with consequences you cannot afford. There was once a chosen one who sensed God calling him to release bitterness towards someone who had betrayed him. The Spirit whispered, "Forgive now," but he delayed. "I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it when I feel ready." Days turned to months, and the bitterness grew roots. It poisoned his relationships, clouded his joy, even hindered his prayers. By the time he realized the cost, years had been wasted. Delay had become a thief. As the prophet Elijah spoke in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 21, "How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him." And hesitation is not neutral. It is a choice. To waver is to stand on sinking sand. God's call does not wait endlessly when he speaks. He expects movement. Not tomorrow, not later, but now. Imagine your life as a train pulling into a station. The doors open for a brief moment, inviting you aboard. But if you hesitate too long, the doors close and the train pulls away. You're left behind, not because the train rejected you, but because delay cost you the moment. Obedience works the same way. To delay is to watch destiny depart while you remain at the platform. But hear this, chosen one. God's warnings are never given to shame you, but to save you. He calls you urgently because he loves you deeply. Every act of immediate obedience becomes a shield, guarding you from storms you may not even see coming. Now, let me pause and speak heart to heart. If these words have been feeding your spirit, if this channel has been a place where your soul finds strength, then consider supporting it. Not because you're pressured, not because you are obligated, but because you desire to keep the flame burning for others. Think of it this way. A lighthouse on a rocky shore costs much to keep lit, the oil for the flame, the care for its walls. Yet sailors who find their way home never pay for the light directly. They are simply grateful it was there. In the same way, this ministry is like that lighthouse. It shines to guide, to warn, to encourage. Your donation is like oil poured into the lamp, ensuring the light never goes out for those still at sea. Whether your gift is small or large, it is never unnoticed. It becomes part of the story. It becomes part of the light that reaches the next soul wandering in darkness. And it is always, always voluntary. Support only if your heart is moved. That is the beauty of it. It is never forced. If giving is not possible for you, your prayers are just as vital. If donating is within your means, it helps expand the reach. Either way, you remain part of this movement. You are family here, not a number, not a transaction. And while you are here, take a moment to like this message. Share it so another soul may be strengthened. And subscribe so you do not miss the words heaven is speaking in this season. These small acts ripple outward farther than you know. Every click becomes like a pebble dropped in water. Its waves spread to shores unseen. Chosen one, delay is dangerous, but obedience is life. The longer you wait, the more ground you lose. Do not let hesitation steal what heaven intends for you. When God whispers, act quickly. When he nudges, respond immediately. Your swiftness in obedience becomes a fortress around your destiny. Remember the train at the station. The doors are open now. The whistle is sounding. The decision is yours. Will you board, or will you watch the opportunity fade into the distance this week? Do not waver. Do not postpone. Let today be the day your obedience moves without hesitation. For it is in the quickness of your response that you will discover protection, provision, and peace that only God can give. Chosen one, there is a dangerous edge. Many approach without realizing it. The slow hardening of the heart. Each time the voice of God is ignored. Each time conviction is pushed aside. The heart grows a little less tender, a little less open. And then one day the whisper that was once so clear seems faint, almost gone. Mercy has not disappeared, but your ears have grown deaf to it. Disobedience is rarely sudden. It is almost always gradual, like a stone in a river, worn smooth over years of water rushing past. Your sensitivity can wear away if you continually resist the Spirit's leading. That is why Scripture warns us so strongly. Do not harden your heart. It was proclaimed in the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 3, verse 15. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as you did in the rebellion. Then notice the urgency of that word today, not tomorrow, not when it feels convenient. Today, the longer you delay, the easier it becomes to silence conviction. The more you silence conviction, the easier it becomes to slip into blindness. Think of it like a candle burning in a dark room. At first, the flame is bright and the shadows retreat, but neglect it and the flame weakens. If ignored long enough, it dies out, leaving the room in total darkness. That is what happens to the heart when the whisper of God is constantly ignored. There was once a chosen one who felt the tug of heaven to step away from a toxic friendship. Deep down, she knew the influence was pulling her into compromise. But she pushed the conviction aside again and again. It's not that serious, she told herself. But with each dismissal, the voice grew clear and her heart grew colder. By the time the friendship collapsed, the damage was deep. Her faith was shaken. Her confidence fractured. The voice had been speaking all along, but repeated rebellion had dulled her ears. That is why this week matters so much. You cannot afford to live one more day half listening to God's whisper. Your destiny, your peace, your very protection hinges on it. To ignore him is to edge closer to blindness. Picture a violin string pulled tighter and tighter. At first it sings beautifully, but if you ignore the tension, if you refuse to adjust, the string eventually snaps. The music ends abruptly, not because it was weak, but because it was neglected. In the same way, your soul is delicate when it comes to obedience. Ignore the adjustments of the Spirit, and the very song of your life is cut short. Or imagine walking through fog. At first the path is faintly visible, but the farther you go without a light, the denser the fog becomes until you cannot even see your own hand. Ignoring God's voice works like that. Each step without obedience makes the path harder to discern, until blindness sets in. Chosen one, you must guard your sensitivity like treasure. Treasure is not left exposed on the streets. It is guarded, protected, carefully watched. Your heart must be the same. Guard it against rebellion. Protect it against the lie that says one more delay won't hurt because it always hurts. Delay always steals. This is your moment to declare you will not grow blind. You will not let rebellion numb your spirit. You will keep your heart tender before God. I want you to pause right now and leave a sign in the comments. Write 111. Why? Because it is a prophetic marker, a way of saying, I choose to stay sensitive. I refuse to harden my heart. I will not let rebellion blind me. It is not about numbers. It is about alignment. Your declaration is a seed planted in faith, reminding you of this decision when temptation tries to creep back in. And remember, each time you respond to the whisper of God, your hearing grows sharper. Each yes makes you more alive to His presence. Each step of obedience strengthens your sight until what once seemed confusing becomes crystal clear. Do not let mercy step back from you. Do not let rebellion silence the voice that has carried you this far, this week. Live with your ears wide open, your heart tender, your steps swift in obedience. For the voice of God is not just instruction. It is life itself. And let this settle deep in you. Blindness doesn't happen in a single night. It happens through small, repeated choices to ignore, to postpone, to excuse. That is why your response today is so important. Every yes keeps the flame alive. Every moment of surrender keeps your spirit soft. You're shaping your future with these choices. And heaven is watching over every step you take. Chosen one, have you ever wondered why the battles against your life have been so fierce? Why the attacks sometimes feel personal, targeted, relentless, as if darkness itself knows your name? It is not imagination. It is reality. Hell studies you because you are marked. The enemy sees the potential you carry, the destiny inscribed upon your spirit, and he trembles at what will happen when you walk in full obedience to God's voice. If you feel as though life has singled you out for hardship, it is because you have been singled out, but not only by heaven. The adversary recognizes chosen vessels. He has seen before how one obedient servant can shift nations, restore families, bring light to entire generations. That is why he fights you so personally. Consider Job, a man upright and blameless, yet marked by unusual suffering. Why? Because even in heaven, his name was known. The enemy asked permission to sift him, because he feared what Job's faithfulness could reveal. The same is true for you. Your trials are not random. They are strategic. Hell wastes no time targeting those who have no future. According to the writings in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." This is not merely poetic language. It is the lens through which you must view your struggles. That argument with a friend, it is deeper than words. That sudden wave of discouragement is not just emotion. These are skirmishes in a larger battle. A battle over your calling, over your assignment, over the influence you will carry when you step into your full identity as a child of God. Think of a chessboard. The enemy does not waste his strongest pieces on pawns with no strategic value. He saves his fiercest moves for those pieces that threaten his position. If you feel pressure, it is because you are positioned as a threat. Or picture yourself as a torch in the night. Moths are drawn to it, but so are predators who despise the light. The brighter your flame grows, the more attention it attracts. The enemy hopes to extinguish you before your light reaches its full brilliance. There was once a chosen one who battled unseen torment nightmares. Depression, sudden waves of fear with no explanation. At first he thought he was weak, flawed, broken. But then he learned his life carried a mantle of intercession. His prayers were shaking things in the spirit, breaking chains over people he had never even met. The attacks were fierce, not because he was weak, but because he was dangerous to darkness. That realization changed everything. So too with you. The intensity of your battle is a reflection of the intensity of your calling. The enemy's attacks are not proof of your failure, but of your significance. He does not waste his weapons on those with no influence. Chosen one, let this truth anchor you. The fight against you reveals the fear of hell concerning you. Every sleepless night, every sudden storm, every unexpected loss. These are not signs that God has abandoned you. They are signs that the enemy is panicking, scrambling to stop what heaven has already decreed. And yet remember this, the enemy may know your name, but he does not hold your destiny. He may recognize your potential, but he cannot cancel it. His weapons may form, but they cannot prosper against the one who abides in the shadow of the Almighty. Your assignment is not to fear the recognition of hell, but to stand firm in the recognition of heaven. For while darkness studies you, heaven has already sealed you. While the enemy whispers lies, the Spirit declares truth. While hell plots your downfall, angels are dispatched to guard your steps. Picture a battlefield at dawn. Smoke rises. Soldiers clash. Chaos fills the air. In the midst of it stands a single banner, lifted high, unmoved by the winds. That banner is your identity in Christ. No matter how fierce the enemy's assault, your banner will not fall, because it is held by hands stronger than your own, the hands of the one who chose you. So when you feel the pressure mount, when attacks rise without warning, when your soul feels targeted, remember it is because you are known by heaven, known by hell, and chosen for a purpose that will outlast both storm and shadow. Chosen one. Never forget this. The voice of God is not mere advice. It is not one opinion among many, something to weigh and consider as if heaven's words could be placed beside the noise of the world. His voice is survival itself. To treat it as suggestion is to mistake the hand that saves for a casual whisper. When God speaks, he is not offering preference. He is giving the map that leads you away from destruction. There's a reason the scriptures call his word a lamp for our feet and a light for our path. Without it, you wander in the dark, stumbling into snares, falling into pits designed to swallow you whole. The enemy does not fear your talent, your charm, or your intellect. He fears your obedience to the voice of God. Because when you obey, no weapon formed against you can succeed. There was once a chosen one who was planning to make a business decision. Everything looked perfect. The numbers aligned. The investors were excited. The timing seemed ideal. But one night, as he prayed, a heaviness filled his spirit. The whisper came clear. Not this path. He wanted to ignore it. After all, the deal looked flawless. But he obeyed, though it cost him. Months later, the business collapsed in scandal, dragging everyone involved into ruin. That whisper had not been suggestion. It had been survival. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 4, verse 4, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." And bread feeds your body, but the voice of God feeds your life. Without it, you may have full hands, but an empty soul. Without it, you may walk, but never truly live. Picture yourself in a desert. The sun blazes overhead. The sand burns beneath your feet, and thirst claws at your throat. Suddenly, someone hands you a map to an oasis. Would you treat it as optional? Would you toss it aside and try to find water by chance? Of course not. You would cling to it, for it is not a suggestion. It is your only hope for survival. That is what God's voice is to you in this season. Or imagine a sailor lost at sea, waves towering on every side out of the darkness. A lighthouse beam cuts through the storm. It does not shout. It does not argue. It simply shines, showing the way. The sailor's survival depends on following that beam. In the same way, when God speaks, his words may be quiet, but they are always clear, always guiding you towards safety. Chosen one, every step you take in obedience strengthens your shield. Every moment you ignore his voice leaves cracks in your armor. The world teaches you to trust instinct, to follow feelings, to lean on logic, but the Spirit teaches you to trust the whisper of heaven even when it defies human understanding. Remember Jonah? He heard God's voice clearly, but treated it as optional. He boarded a ship in the opposite direction, thinking he could escape the command. Yet his disobedience did not bring freedom. It brought a storm. His life and the lives of those around him were endangered until he surrendered. That story still speaks. Ignoring God's voice does not simply harm you. It endangers everyone connected to you. You must begin to view his voice not as a burden, but as your lifeline. The commands of God are not restrictions. They are rescue missions. The warnings of God are not meant to suffocate you. They are meant to preserve you. When he says no, it is not punishment. It is protection. Think of the countless moments you wished you had listened, the inner nudges you ignored, the warnings you brushed aside. How different would the outcome have been if you had obeyed, yet even in those regrets? See the mercy of God because he still speaks, still calls, still offers the path of survival. Chosen one. The difference between ruin and rescue often comes down to this. Did you listen? And did you obey? Never let his voice become background noise in your life. Hold it close. Treat it as breath, as water, as life itself. For without it, you cannot stand. With it, you cannot fall. And let this reminder echo when you obey his voice. You are not just saving yourself. You are preserving destinies around you. Like a torchbearer leading others through a dark tunnel, your obedience illuminates the way for those who walk behind you. This is why his whisper matters so deeply. It is not only about your survival. It is about the many lives tied to your yes, am chosen one. The moment has come where your crown must be chosen. You cannot stand halfway between compromise and calling any longer. Destiny is not neutral. It requires a response. You have been carried through storms, refined in silence, and shaped in battles unseen. But all of it leads here. This moment is not casual. Heaven watches as you decide whether you will rise into the identity prepared for you or shrink back into the shadows of hesitation. Crowns are not handed to the indifferent. They are given to the ones who step forward, even trembling, and say, "Yes, Lord." Refusing your crown means your generation is waiting for your voice, your throne is vacant, and your task is unfulfilled. It was always intended to be you, even though God can raise someone else. Imagine Esther shuddering in front of a monarch who might kill her with a single word. She was not selected due to her lack of fear. She said, "If I perish, which is why she was selected. And a whole country was saved in her submission. Her crown had nothing to do with wealth or influence. It has to do with assignment. It's the same with you. In his second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, the apostle reminds us that a crown of righteousness has been set up for me and will be given to everyone who loves the Lord, the just judge. This crown is more than just a symbol. It never dies. It stands for obedience, loyalty, and triumph. It is proof that you persevered and made the correct decision despite pressure from the outside world. Aligning your present with your everlasting reward means selecting your crown today. Imagine a battlefield with helmets strewn all over the place. They were originally carried by soldiers, but they fled in terror. After that, one gets up, raises the helmet, and secures it over his head. His actions demonstrate that he is prepared to battle and win. In the same manner, you are promising heaven and hell that you would not desert your position or think about a relay race when you announce your title. You have the baton, yet you are hesitant to run. Everyone waits. The track is unambiguous, but the team suffers because of your delay. Your task is represented by that baton. Additionally, the final line is symbolized by your crown. You can't let it down. Not right now. Not after this much effort. Selected one. You can feel unworthy. You can feel unprepared. But the ideal are never awarded crowns. The obedient receive them. You've come too far to turn back now. You didn't squander the fire you passed through. We did not overlook the silent tears you cried. You were prepared for this time by every tribulation. To express it immediately, I call you. Write, "I claim mine," in the comments. Those 3 words are more than just a declaration. There is spiritual exchange. You're not only admitting that there is a crown, you're grabbing it, snatching it up, and not letting it go unclaimed. Oh, and keep in mind that the crown is not just for you. You are stating, "The trials I survived were not in vain. The mantle I carry will not be wasted. The calling on my life will not pass me by." Others are released when you follow your calling. Others are elevated as you rise. Your affirmation is never unique. It affects people you may never even meet as it spreads. The adversary knows what will happen when you eventually say yes, which is why he has worked so hard to make you hesitant. Let this be the day when reluctance ends. Chosen one. Let today be the day you begin living as if you are called and stop questioning whether you are, because you have already been selected by heaven. Whether you will take your crown is the sole question. Additionally, keep in mind that crowns are not put on show on shelves. On heads that bow first, they're positioned. You are qualified to wear it because of your humility, resignation, and readiness to follow God's will. You don't have to be perfect. You must relinquish yourself. Imagine a blacksmith using fire to shape metal. The crown you are to wear has been made by your hardships, hammered by your tears, and heated by your battles. It shines today because it survived the fire, not because it was simple. Rise, selected one, take a proud stance. The future does not hold your crown. It's here, awaiting your announcement, awaiting your compliance. Don't fail to claim it. Selected one, silence in heaven, rather than angry speech, is one of the most dreadful judgments. If you ignore God for long enough, you run the danger of entering a chilly emptiness where his voice used to lead you. There is no serenity in this solitude. It is the lack of guidance, the emptiness of what could have been. Though it may seem innocuous, silence is really a warning. You are left to face the tempest of your own understanding when God stops whispering to you and his advice stops reaching your ears. And what could be more perilous than believing but being blind? You see, that quiet was previously experienced by a chosen one. For months, she had been urged to end a relationship that was subtly suffocating her soul. However, she put it off. She dismissed the murmurs. She prayed for guidance one morning, but all she received was nothingness. She felt no stirring, no guiding, and no correction for weeks. Heaven seems to have turned its back. She became repentant as a result of that silence. The whisper reappeared when she eventually complied, but she would always remember the taste of quiet. According to the old language found in Hosea 4 verses 4-6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because you rejected knowledge. You're not my priests either. When God's voice is consistently ignored, silence results. He does not cease to exist. It's that you no longer see him. Living in such condition is like to walking blindly toward ruin. As long as it is shining, picture a lighthouse on the coast. Ships navigate storms safely. However, the water becomes dangerous if the lightkeeper leaves his station and the flame goes out. Ships keep traveling, but many hit the rocks without direction. God's voice is silent, like a lighthouse that has gone out. What used to be safe becomes dangerous. Or imagine a shepherd in the hills yelling to his sheep. His sheep follow because they recognize his voice. However, the voice fades if the sheep go too far and ignore the call for an extended period of time. Predators soon circle, making it impossible for the sheep to return. That is the result of consistently ignoring God's call. Absence is not the stillness. Our disobedience has caused this distance. Selected one. This message is intended to rouse you to thankfulness rather than to scare you into despair. God's kindness is shown by the fact that you still have conviction and hear him speak. You have not yet been taken by his quiet. He keeps calling you back, telling you to lean in, and reminding you that his voice is life. I want to take a moment with you at this point. Think about supporting it if these words have lifted your spirits or if this flow of communications has illuminated your night like a candle. In order to help another lost soul find their way, please take a time to like, share, and subscribe to this message in order to get future life lessons. And think about this if you feel guided. A little gift is like oil being poured into this lighthouse's lantern. For those who haven't yet found their way home, every drop guarantees that the flame will continue to burn. It is just presented as a chance to work together to preserve the light. It is never required or coerced. In the same way that people on a dark road are appreciative of each lamp they see along the route, those that follow you will also be appreciative of the light you contribute to maintaining. Even if you are unable to donate, your shares, prayers, and presence are already potent sacrifices. Know that your seed is not squandered if you're able to share. It multiplies into untold testimonials and unreached lives. Come back to the gravity of this moment with me now. You're not meant to live in silence. You are made to be able to walk clearly. Must listen to the voice of the Father and understand his daily guidance. His whisper should not be taken lightly. Hold on to it, protect it, and answer his words promptly. Because the day will come when those who disregarded his voice will scream for guidance, but only hear nothing. But you are not summoned to nothingness. Intimacy is what you're called to. You have been asked to listen and obey, and you will never be left behind as long as his voice is alive inside you. Never lost. The storm never hushed him. Selected one. You are invited. Treasure the voice. Walk in the light and answer the whisper. Heaven does not advise when it speaks. It's a kind of redemption, and the earth is more perilous than ever when heaven is quiet. Selected one. Not all voices with a sacred sound originate in heaven. One of the biggest risks you will encounter on your trip is this: false voices that seem authentic but ultimately lead to dishonesty. They may sound reassuring or even persuasive, but they eventually up destroyed. These days, discernment is your best defense. Because from the beginning, the enemy's tactic has been to distort what God has spoken. The snake did not scream in anger in the garden. He suggested in a whisper, though somewhat distorted. He repeated what God had spoken. Did God say that? Outright denial was not the trap. However, that same tactic is still in use today in the little change that entice souls away from obedience. You need to have the ability to evaluate the voices that are heard by you. Consider if they are consistent with God's word and Christ's character rather than how they make you feel. A fake voice may be flattering, but it will never persuade. Shortcuts will be promised, yet never calls for giving up. In his second epistle to the Corinthians, the Apostle Paul issued a warning. Verse 14 of chapter 11. And that makes sense since Satan himself poses as a light angel. I don't anticipate deceit to appear in the shadows. It often takes the form of beauty, seeming intelligence, or the appearance of sanctity. Discrimination is thus essential. It is essential. A chosen one once heard a voice telling him to go for a certain chance. Even the language of calling and destiny gave it a heavenly appearance. But there was a hesitancy in his soul. He waited and fasted and prayed. Days later, it became evident that the chance was a trap set up to take advantage of him both materially and spiritually. It would have been disastrous if he had hurried in. The fake almost worked, but he was saved by wisdom. Imagine a traveler traversing a deep jungle with a compass. There are several signs pointing in various directions along the trail. Some are cheerful and hospitable, while others are sinister and gloomy. True north, however, is only known via the compass. The compass is unaffected by the fake sign's attractive appearance. Your compass is the word and spirit of God. Ignoring them might lead you down a path that takes you more into the realm of deceit. Or imagine an amateur musician tuning her instrument. The dissonance is shown when the notes are positioned against the real pitch, even if they may sound great. False voices often have an almost natural sound. However, the inaccuracy is evident when compared to the pitch of Scripture. The real pitch of paradise is what you need to keep your ear fixated on. Do not hate the uneasiness in your soul so that you can identify when a voice sounds fake. This uneasiness is often the Spirit's caution that anything that seems nice could not be from God. The genuine voice of God will always be in accordance with His Word, always point you to submit, and always bring you closer to holiness. While the fake voice may play on your pride, promise, ease, or excuse compromise. Once upon a time, a prophet made pronouncements that sounded strong but were not from God. They believed they had heard heaven, so they followed. But then there was destruction. The risks of false voices are not limited to the past. Even today, they are all around you in the form of media, society, and even those who say they speak for God. You must carefully consider each word because of this. Selected one. Your destiny cannot be blatantly stolen by the adversary. You must be tricked by him into putting it down. Furthermore, deceit works best when it seems true. Because of this, your protection is not in cunning, but in your closeness to God. The more you are near Him, the easier it will be for you to recognize a foreign voice. Imagine strolling during dusk when forms are deceptive and shadows are blurry. Tree stumps may resemble crouching people. Even if a way seems solid, it is merely missing. Eyes might fail you in twilight. However, if you have a lantern with you, the light will show what the shadows are trying to hide. That lamp is God's message. It reveals what seems to be sacred, but is really nothing. Selected one. In this hour, you cannot afford to be irresponsible with voices. Weigh them, put them to the test, and run them through the Bible. For in a world where counterfeits and echoes abound, you will only be guided to life by the authentic voice of God. And let this truth to become deeply ingrained in you. Suspicion is not discernment. It serves as defense. It does not imply that you should not believe whatever you hear. It entails evaluating everything in light of the timeless norm. The shepherd's sheep recognize his voice when you remain near him, and no outsider can entice them away. Deception will lose its hold if you stay close. Selected 1. Certain life paths cannot be undone once they are chosen. Some decisions are so significant that they leave a lasting impression on the soul. Scripture refers to a point of no return for this reason, a location where persistent D. You have to realize how near that cliff some people stand, unaware that one more step may send them over the brink. They were playing with compromise. God has patience. He is unfathomably forgiving. Mercy, however, is not a limitless excuse for disobedience. It is a request to turn, to bring you out. A rope is dropped into the hole. Cutting that rope, making fun of it, and repeatedly refusing it would cause one to fall into a void in which even conviction would cease to exist. That is the peril of the irreversible cliff. In Romans 1 verse 18, verse 28, the Bible makes a declaration. God also granted them a reprobate mentality to perform those things that are inconvenient, notwithstanding their dislike of keeping God in their understanding. Well, to be released in a blindness is to be given over. It is the judgment that causes the greatest terror. Abandonment from inside, not from the outside. The spirit retreats when the voice of caution is disregarded for an extended period of time and when resistance becomes the norm. Imagine a swimmer being dragged by a powerful current. There is initially still a possibility to swim back to shore and resist. However, the current becomes stronger the farther they go, until the draw becomes irresistible. That is the soul's reaction to revolt. You end up going further than you intended to, until it seems difficult to get out. Alternatively, visualize a candle flickering in the darkness. It burns steadily every time you protect it from the wind. The cliff of no return is like that last gust that snuffs it out if you ignore it and quit protecting it. The point at which the door to light is shut by carelessness. Once upon a time, a selected person took conviction lightly. He used diversions to hush the ghost whenever it murmured. He eventually lost the burden of right and evil. By the time disaster hit, he was no longer aroused by what had previously wounded his heart. He was numb in spirit. The disaster itself had not been the threat, but the tedium that preceded the selection. Delays are not synonymous with safety. You get a little bit closer to the brink every time you fight conviction. Every time you say later, the earth gives way underneath you. No one makes fun of God. He is really merciful. However, it should not be crushed underfoot. The Spirit is pressing so strongly because of this. Decisions must be made now, not tomorrow or when you feel ready. You're being urged to turn, answer, and comply. I want you to make a statement to commemorate this moment while the whisper is still audible. Post a comment. 222. Superstition is not what this is. It is an act of prophecy. Let that number serve as a reminder that mercy is there now, but not eternally disregarded. It is you declaring, I will not play with the cliff. I will not harden my heart. I choose the path of life while the door is still open. The cliff of no return is real for the chosen one. However, you're not just standing there defenseless. You are receiving a warning, and compassion is warning. This is a command to return before the ground. You give way below. Answer right away. Since there are no assurances of return after the rope of mercy is severed, conviction must continue to endure. Don't undervalue your heart's compassion. Keep it safe. Keep it safe. React promptly. For today is your lifeline, according to the voice of the Spirit. And the only solid foundation that remains is obedience. And consider this. Conviction is a gift in and of itself. The pain you experience when you are on the verge of being lost, when compromise calls, that burden on your chest is evidence that you have not been abandoned. God is still pursuing you if you are still experiencing the pain of conviction. Many people do not experience the sting. Truth numb, oblivious to warning, since it indicates that your heart is alive. That numbness is the real risk, treasure, and conviction. There is still time to turn around, to take a step back from the precipice and enter life, even while your heart continues to beat with that understanding. Don't hate the strong tug of conviction, chosen one. Your soul is being pulled by heaven, preventing you from falling. Every stirring is proof that God is still on your side, still won't let you get away with it. Selected one, you have to be aware of this fact. Darkness is frightened by your own presence. It is more than just what you say. It is what you embody. It is impossible to conceal the light that shines inside you, a flame that God Himself put there. And even though you can feel little, frail, or ignored at times, that light frightens the adversary, and demons shudder when you realize who you really are, because their plans are thrown off by your presence. This explains why resistance often manifests itself in unexpected ways. It's not simply that life is unjust. It's war. Even when you enter a room softly, the light inside you reveals what darkness would rather keep hidden. The mood changes. Because God's presence follows you everywhere, the schemes that are spoken in the dark lose their hold. David's compositions in the Psalms serve as a reminder. Chapter 27, verse 1. My rescue and light come from the Lord. Who should I be afraid of? My life's stronghold is the Lord. Who am I to be terrified of? Your inner light is not your own. His presence is reflected in it. You are frightened because of this, because of the power of the one who is inside you, not your own. Darkness is aware that light is stronger than it. Instead, it attempts to divert your attention, keep you quiet, and persuade you that your flame is trivial. Imagine a single match being lighted in a cave that is completely dark. Immediately, the shadows jump back. The environment is altered by even the slightest flame. You are that. Your light pierces the darkness even when you feel weak and when you whisper rather than yell. Or picture a coastal lighthouse. It is smashed by storms. Waves smash onto its base. Against its walls, winds wail. However, the light still shines, directing seafarers away from devastation. That's what your life is all about. Even when darkness rages, your light endures. It is evidence that God has left His earth with witnesses. Once, when the chosen ones undervalued her power, she believed that her prayers were unimportant. No one noticed her. However, pandemonium appeared to relinquish its hold as she stepped inside her office. Near her, co-workers who were nervous about other people felt calm. Discussions changed. Arguments became less heated. She was unaware that it was the light of God shining from inside, not her personality. She didn't realize till later that demons avoid areas where He is present. Selected one. Your emergence is feared by the adversary. The realization that the same spirit that resurrected Christ from the grave is inside you is what Satan fears. He is aware that you become unbreakable as soon as you enter that consciousness. You're no longer susceptible to being influenced, silenced, or duped. Attacks on your identification are thus frequent. He wants you to live in uncertainty rather than authority. Imagine troops in a battlefield. Some people are armed. Some merely have armor. One person, however, is in possession of the flag. The flag doesn't fight by itself. On the other hand, it asserts ground ownership. That's you, selected one. The flag of light is carried by you. Just your presence proclaims. God owns this land. The opponent knows he cannot stand where that flag flies, so he backs off. Or imagine a dawn emerging in the middle of the night. The darkness tries to push the shadows as far as it can, but the instant light comes, it is too late. The only option available tonight is to withdraw. It's the same with your light. Even though darkness may persist, the morning you bear will always triumph. The myth that your impact is pointless is not to be believed. The atmosphere changes with each murmured prayer. Light is disseminated by every act of obedience. Every time you put holiness ahead of compromise, Father, The evil dominion loses ground. Selected 1. Because you are selected, not because you are flawless, your light scares darkness. It was never your intention to disappear into the darkness. You were created to shine, to proclaim that light has already triumphed just by being. So take a brave step. Enter spaces with confidence. Recognize that the Almighty is with you. Demons are aware of your name because of the one who rules inside you, not because of who you are in yourself. Darkness cannot defeat you, chosen one, as long as that flame is burning. Allow this to sink deeply into your soul. Light shines without asking permission. It just glows. And when it shines, everything around it transforms. Your life is not background noise, and the same is true for you. It's a lighthouse. With God, every action you perform has an impact on worlds beyond the visible. Don't back down, believing that your light is brittle. When heaven breathes on it, even the smallest spark might turn into a firestorm. And you have been selected by heaven to shine brightly against the darkest darkness. Selected 1. The world cannot understand the mystery of obedience. No matter how little, every act of surrender you do turns into a spiritual key. Doors are unlocked with keys. Doors leading to breakthroughs, freedom, and provision. On your own, you couldn't manufacture. Obedience breaks the bonds that formerly confined you and allows you to enter the roomy spaces that God has planned for you. On the other hand, disobedience always creates bonds, even if it can seem liberating at the time. The whisper strengthens the bondages hold with each concession, delayed reaction, and unwillingness to comply. What seems to be freedom quickly turns into enslavement. Because of this, the road of obedience is always the road to genuine freedom, even if it is narrow and even unpleasant. The Epistle to James, chapter 1, verse 25, serves as a reminder from God's Word. However, the person who pays close attention to the ideal rule that grants freedom and follows it, remembering what they have heard, will be rewarded in their endeavors. No, freedom comes from obeying God's rule, which is the path to life, not from letting go of restriction. The contradiction is obvious. Rebellion results in servitude, while surrender results in freedom. A chosen one once felt caught in a vicious cycle of addiction. He prayed for a breakthrough, but he persisted in disregarding the Spirit's prompts to confess his battle, to get help, and change bad habits. Eventually, when he became tired of his bondage, he obeyed and confessed. He asked for assistance. The cycle was finally broken by the act of obedience itself, which opened a river of grace. What years of hard work could not achieve. In an instant, obedience was unleashed. Imagine a door that has dozens of locks on it. You pull. You exert pressure. No matter how hard you hit it, it won't move. Then, almost without warning, all the locks click open and one key turns. Obedience is the key. Although it seems normal, it has magical strength that allows it to shatter things that force and willpower cannot. Or consider a bird that is imprisoned. The door of the cage remains open. However, the bird pauses, fearing the unknown. It only realizes the freedom of flying and the immensity of the sky when it dares to go outside. It seems risky to obey. However, it serves as the gateway to the vast realm of freedom that God has planned for you, His chosen one. You have to stop considering compliance to be a loss. All surrenders are exchanges. What seems like death to you is really the beginning of your most authentic life. Your load for His tranquility, your shackles for His freedom, your modest aspirations for His vast destiny. Another selected person struggled to break free from a relationship that was drawing her away from God. She was afraid of being alone, being rejected, and having to let go. But her heart was pushed by the Spirit. Pay attention. She gave up, her hands shaking, and the stillness was painful for a season. Months later, however, her life was filled with clarity and excitement she had never experienced before. It turned out that what had first seemed like a brutal sacrifice was really the key to her release. Selected 1. All of your chains are awaiting a key. Furthermore, the key is not concealed. It's in your compliance, areas in which you have struggled. You want to disrupt such patterns. You want to see the doors open. They react to capitulation rather than effort. Imagine Israel before the Jericho walls. The walls loomed above them, unbreakable. But God gave a straightforward command. March. Give a shout. Pay attention. The walls collapsed as they complied. They were not strong at it. They had given up. It's the same with you. You cannot force the walls that enclose you now to come down, but through your submission to God's voice. Therefore, don't hate the murmur that begs you to give up. The urge that encourages you to put something down should not be taken lightly. For the secret to unlocking shackles is found in your obedience, not just for you, but also for others who are close to you. Your liberation will spread, opening doors for others and giving strength to those who are yet stuck or selected. Obedience breaks chains, and as you go down this road, you'll find that the exact locations where you formerly felt constrained will now serve as examples of freedom for others. The narrative that once brought you down will become the one that gives others hope. Because God never breaks bars for just one person. He does this so that future generations would be aware of his ability to release prisoners. You have to understand how terrible this situation is, chosen one. This week is not like the others. It's war. All around you, a struggle is going on. Invisible, yet indisputable. Angels are in their places. Heaven is watching to see how you will react, and demons are restless. The battlefield is not only outside. It is your obedience, your choices, and your heart. Attacks by the adversary are not infrequent. Because he is afraid of what you are carrying, he attacks. It is afraid of your light, your prayer, and your submission. This week feels heavy because of that. Why does the air seem charged? Why distractions are more common and temptations more acute? There is no punishment for you. You are important, which is why you are being battled. The old terms used in the book of